Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 643 of Cognitive Dissonance, and we are not doing YouTube this week. I was under the weather on our normal record date. So we are recording late on a Friday night because I was not up to it on Thursday. So this is a talkie only. And it feels like a silent film era when we don't do like video now.
I know, right? It feels so different. But yeah, we have to. Last time we said that though, Ian animated it. So I don't know if he'll have enough strength to do that. He did. He animated it.
All right, Ian,
so
I demand that you animate this.
I don't know if he's going to get to it. You know, it's funny because when you want him to do something, he won't do it. But if he does something he's like, fuck it, if he finds it on his own, then yes, he'll do it. So we'll see. That
is actually like, that is, I think, Ian's entire job description is, will do what he wants if he feels like it.
If he feels like it. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Tom, before we get started, I wanted to talk to you about Cheney losing. You know, it's funny. This last week in Wyoming, the lady who's the election denier, she wound up winning like by a wide margin over Liz Cheney. Yeah. And so now we're at this place where you kind of feel weird that a Cheney lost. Right. And you kind of feel like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right. Then there's the other piece too that I really want to talk about is that she hinted at a presidential run. Yeah. And I very, 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 very much hope it's an independent run.
Oh, you think? See, I hope it's a Republican run.
Republican run. She won't. I don't think she'll draw more than Trump.
I don't know that she will, but she might split the vote. I think she might cause damage. She's so credible in the anti-Trump space that because I don't want to
cause damage enough for her to be the nominee.
I don't know if it's enough for her to be the nominee, but I think it could be enough to leave if Trump becomes the general election candidate. I think it would be enough damage done throughout the course of the primary to just destroy turnout.
Here's what I know about Cheneys. They are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
So I would not put it past her to create an independent group and just run against Trump.
To just pull votes, straight pull votes.
To just be like, I'm going to be the rights independent. I'm going to be the center-right candidate. So vote for me. I'm the center-right candidate. And suck up all those center-right votes
that would be awesome.
That are currently voting for him.
That would be awesome. That would be like a shotgun blast to the face, you know?
And that's
just
what they're known
Cheney
for.
Style.
They are known for a shotgun blast to the face. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
They could call it the locked and loaded party.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. They should do some sort of play on that. You know what I mean? Like,
it would be fucking amazing. When I
410 party.
When I saw the Big Moose party, since she's from Iowa.
Yeah, Big Moose.
When I saw that she and it was pretty, there was no polling that indicated she wasn't going to lose.
No, she wasn't going to lose. And there was, I was a little interested to see the race because polling has been off so bad, but the polling there was fucking spot on.
It was. And I was part of me was disappointed, right? Because here's one of only a handful of people who voted to impeach, who's been on her side speaking some truth to power here. I don't like Liz Cheney, but to see her lose tells you something bad about the people voting.
It really
Except
does, man.
that they're in Wyoming. And you have to temper all of this. And I realize you have to temper all this with it's not a real state. It's the least populated state in America. Nobody's there, man. It's fucking empty. It's absolutely, it's an empty state.
It's an interesting way to look at it because it makes you wonder what happens in, let's just say, Texas.
Yeah, right.
What happens in, and I'm trying to think of these states that are kind of purple or maybe could be purple. You're talking North Carolina. What happens in North Carolina?
Yeah, right, yeah.
What happens in these states that are, that last time were on the brink?
Yep.
What happens in Arizona? What happens in, who knows?
I think if she was in a state that had a city of any size, she would have done so much better.
Wyoming, the Democrat isn't even going to run against whoever's up there.
Yeah, right.
They're not even going to put a Democrat against them. If they do, it's like it's just for show. It's not for anything else. They're not dropping any funding behind this. So it's just a Democrat for show at best. So the Democrats don't have anyone to vote for, but the Democrats don't live up there.
Yeah, right. No, they don't. Look, I just looked it up out of curiosity. The largest city in Wyoming is Cheyenne, Wyoming. Take a guess how many people?
260,000.
64,000.
Shut the fuck up,
Nobody
Tom.
lives in Wyoming,
Shut the
man.
Fuck up.
64,000.
Are you serious?
Dude, I'm dead serious.
64,000 people?
Yes.
That's not even a Bears game,
dude,
man.
I know. There's nobody there. That's why it's sort of like, yes, she lost, but I mean, she did like nobody's there to vote. It's a state that like has no meaningful like educated electorate. It just doesn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a bunch of fucking rural farm folk. That's who's out there.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. I don't want it to be I don't want to acknowledge that it might be representative of how America feels. And I guess like I look at Wyoming and I'm like, how can it be? They don't have a city. 64,000 is half the size of a decent sized suburb out here.
Yeah, it's tiny.
It's nothing.
There are at least 10 cities around me that are bigger than that.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Is like I live in a suburb that is as far west as you can go from Chicago. If you go any further west, and it's not an exaggeration,
there's no more suburbs.
It's just corn.
It's not a suburb. Yeah.
You fall off the edge of the world. There's nothing. If I go west of my driveway, Earth stops spinning. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's here there be monsters. And my town has 200,000 people.
Yeah.
The town immediately adjacent is 147,000 people.
Yeah.
64,000, that's their big city, dude.
Yeah, and you're 40 miles out of Chicago. Yeah, you're 40 miles out of Chicago.
40 miles,
too.
yeah. Do you remember when we were up in Michigan and we were at my uncle's land and we were shooting and there was that guy who's like, oh, I don't like going into the big city of Grand Rapids. And you're like, the big city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Nobody outside of Michigan knows about Grand Rapids. That's not a big city.
There's 2 exits on the expressway.
Grand Rapids has 200,000 people.
Does it really?
Yeah, man. To put 64,000 people in perspective, Cecil, Grand Rapids, Michigan, which nobody that's outside of Michigan has ever heard of, and why would you? That's 200,000 people, man. That's
Jesus, dude.
3 and a change times bigger than the biggest city in Wyoming.
I recognize I think you're probably right. I just hope that this isn't the turning of the Republican Party to become the party. Because what are you happy about? I saw the gloat the next day, the gloating on social media the next day, and it was all about like, that shows you when, Republicans are rhinos or whatever, and you're thinking, no, like, this person literally just said, you can't do these things. You don't just control what's law and what isn't.
Right. Yeah.
And they're getting thrown outside of this party. You're like, how do you, because really all you can be is the party of, it's like trolling. It's like the party of hurting someone else or trying to like say, ha ha, that kind of thing. That's really all it is.
Yeah. There's no, like, genuinely, and I mean this, what does the MAGA crowd stand for policy-wise? What are you about? What are your ideals? What matters to you? Like, it's nothing. It's like, you guys, it is a desire to rally around a mean-spirited bully because
you're right.
You have been bullied and you want to now be the bully. Because you feel for the first time in your life that your enormous privilege and power is beginning to erode, and that frightens you, and this guy is willing to carry your fucking banner.
I think about the two sides. I think about the Democrats and I think about the Republicans. When I think about the Republicans, I think it is literally only ever about a cult of personality. It's never about the issues, because the issues are all sort of monolithic. Don't do anything, right? Stop something from happening is conservatism. So it's like, stop it from happening. Okay, that's anybody can do that.
America,
now it's just
let it work itself out in payroll.
Yeah, exactly. Deciding which person you want to be your figurehead. But on the other side, there really is a difference between Bernie's policies and Biden's policies and even Swalwell's policies. You know what I mean? Like, everybody on that stage had a different perspective and a different set of priorities and a different idea of how they wanted America to move forward. And when I think about the other side, I literally never think that. I'm always just like, yeah, it's just going to be like a popularity contest.
Well, because the right has done a really good job of being monolithic. They really do. Like, they don't have any...
Because it's easy.
Yeah. They don't have any substantive policy differences. That's just a matter of like, which fucking skin. It's like when you play a video game and it's all the same character, but you can fucking wear different clothes.
Yeah, you can buy in different skin, like a DLC.
Yeah,
they just have DLC content. Yeah.
I feel like the entire Republican clown car is just because we've watched these debates now for years. And you walk out and you're like, well, you might make fun of somebody for being bad at debating or like forgetting which fucking departments he's going to eliminate, writing shit down on your hand, or like whatever other just wildly anti-intellectual, dumbass bullshit they've done over the years. So like, and that's all fair, but at the end of the day, they're all the same guy. They're 100% all the same guy. And you can't say that as much. Like, you can't say like Liz Warren is substantively the same as Joe Biden, who is substantively the same as Marianne Williamson. They all had
different ideas.
They're all really different.
They all had different ideas too on how they wanted to move forward. They all had very different ideas. So it's just different. You're right. It's just different.
Dr. Rumick says the sick people are getting worse and we're running out of time.
This story comes from Ars Technica. This is a fucking bit of good news. Loathsome anti-vax group run by RFK Jr. gets meta permaban. Finally. The permaban says it came with this group is saying that the ban came without warning. Meta's like, no, man, like, you violated our shit so many times. It's fucking ridiculous. And this one straw is too much. What's wonderful about this is like RFK and CHD, they are like one of the big 12 promoters of anti-vax disinformation.
Yes. Yeah. And that's great. And this is on the heels of now polio starting to make a comeback in New York City. They're finding it in places in New York City, which is something that they hadn't in forever. And it's because of herd immunity protecting people for so long, and they just don't think it's a threat. And the same thing happened with COVID, same thing happened with literally measles, with all these vaccinations that we had, that, you know, these people just hand waved away and then actively pursued other people trying to convince them not to take these vaccines, all the different vaccines. Hell, there's kids in my family, like in my extended family, that are unvaccinated. And the comments are, well, they're all healthy. And you say, yeah, they're all healthy because of herd immunity. They are benefiting off the backs of everyone else who's gotten vaccinated. They don't naturally have fucking immunity to any of this stuff. And if that stuff were introduced into anywhere around them, they would be fucked. But they're lucky because they live in a country where most people aren't schmucks and get a fucking vaccine.
Yeah, and it's also like, hey, yeah, dum-dum, most people are healthy until they're not.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly.
Like, we're recording on a Friday because I was not feeling well on Thursday, but I felt fucking fine on Wednesday. That's how that works. Like, everybody is healthy until they're not, or almost everybody, right? There are some people I know who have chronic shit going on, but like, that is a goofy, foolish way to think about it. And the thing is that, like, an attack on vaccination categorically does this sort of broad, sweeping, generational damage. If it was just an attack on one specific type of vaccine technologically, or one specific vaccine in particular because of an ingredient somebody had a weird opposition to. But the thing is that it's not. And this anti-vax mindset, it conflates a lot of that stuff. It combines a lot of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it casts aspersion on the idea of the value of vaccination itself. And there's no better tool in our medical toolbox than the tool that doesn't get you sick. Right?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of great tools if you get sick, but none of them are as good as what if you just don't get sick?
Yeah.
That's just always better.
Yeah. And these things are dangerous. Like these are dangerous disease. They don't just make vaccines willy-nilly for no reason. The problem is that they don't seem dangerous because you haven't had to experience them.
Right.
Or the effects are more mild because they're not getting revved up and everybody's getting it. But yeah, you could still be seriously fucked up by a lot of stuff. And polio, holy shit.
Dude,
are we seriously talking about that right now? Polio, the thing we should have eradicated from the face of the earth because we had it on the ropes.
Dude, I really thought that we were going to see the second human disease destroyed in our lifetime, right? Smallpox was eradicated entirely. There is no smallpox because of vaccination. And I thought we were so close. We were like so close to eradicating wild smallpox. And now not only is it not eradicated, but it's here in the States. And the only reason I say and here in the States as if that's something is because up until very recently, polio had been confined only to some fairly rural and difficult to reach and harder to educate and harder to poorer regions of the world, more rural regions of the world by and large. So we're talking about like eradicating polio in like remote corners of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And that it has spread into the more developed world tells you that like the problem of sort of releasing the pressure off of the vaccine like bulwark is that there's nothing that prevents this shit. There's no other, these are scourges, man. They're fucking scourges. And now we got to worry about that shit. And like now monkeypox is not nothing, right? It's not like, it's not COVID, but there's tens of thousands of cases now in the United States of monkeypox.
Yeah.
And we're looking around, it's like, all right, well, that genie's out of the fucking lamp too. And that's going to get real hard. I was listening to something the other day. That's going to take probably a few years if we can to squeeze that genie back into the lamp. And if we do it, we'll do it through vaccination. We will not do it because we will just treat people that get monkeypox. That won't stop the spread. The only way to stop it is vaccination.
Yeah. And I'm glad that they are taking these people off because they are just misinformation machines. And they lie and lie and lie. And there feels like forever that there's no repercussions, that they can just do and say whatever they want. These companies need to take control of this more readily.
Yes, man.
I realize that sometimes this can swing the wrong way. This happens to us all the time, especially on YouTube when we talk about vaccination, for instance.
Right.
We probably won't release this portion as its own story because it's almost certain to get us a strike. Yeah. It's almost certain to get us a strike, even though we are vociferously saying, no, you should not fucking let these people back onto Facebook. Vaccines save lives. People should get vaccines, even though we say all the things that are, 100% CDC backed. I even sent a message to YouTube once. It was like, I never say anything that disagrees with the CDC. People should get vaccines. I've never said anything different. They still said, sorry, we reviewed your stuff and we disagree. Yeah. I know this may be saddened to you, but you get a strike for it.
Yeah. And it's like, you also want to be like, all right, YouTube, you don't actually review anything.
Nobody listened to it.
I don't actually believe that you've listened to anything.
Nobody did.
But we've got to take the bullhorn from these guys. We have to take the fucking bullhorn from these fuckers. They don't deserve it.
And it sucks because every single time, it's either too much or too little. And Facebook always errs on the side of too little. And this is not a too much case at all.
No,
this is not a too much case. This is letting this stuff run for years. Yeah. And those other 11 probably still on.
I know, man. I know, but this does give me hope that those fuckers will be taken down.
We're running out of time, and we still have to find a way out of this mess.
So this story comes to the New York Times, and this is a spot of genuinely good news. And I thought it makes sense to kind of go through some of the provisions that are in the new climate and health bill. So the climate and health bill, which nobody thought was going to pass. Nobody thought this was going to pass. And at the very last minute, Manchin and Sinema both signed on and agreed to it. And it has passed. It has passed, and it is signed into law by President Biden on Tuesday. So it is a substantial $1 trillion+ piece of legislation. It is a huge piece of legislation. It involves basically a round of spending and tax cuts and savings and new revenue aimed at, now they're calling it inflation reduction, but a huge parts of this are about healthcare and the climate.
I wanted to say too, this is one of those things that, like, while Sinema did sign on, she and they wound up knocking some of the bigger things out of this.
Yeah.
That when this initially was supposed to go through, this was going to be a lot more wide ranging. It covered a lot more things like, childcare and plenty of other stuff.
A lot of social safety net
fucking
stuff.
Eaten out of this bill by a lot of shitty Democrats.
Yep.
A lot of shitty Democrats, because that's who was arguing over this. This is not a Republican thing, right? This is the Democrats who were arguing over whether or not they were going to provide social safety nets to American people.
Absolutely.
So we have to cast that blame on the Democrats who fucking cut this apart with a scalpel and finally agreed to a much smaller bill, a much less impact bill than was originally proposed. And I think we have to say that even though they did finally come to the table, they came to the table with a knife to cut a bunch of shit out of it.
They did. And like to name names, the majority of the cuts, and not a small majority, but the vast majority of these cuts came from two fucking people. That's the vast majority of we are hostage when you have a majority that is this fucking slim. You are held hostage to the whims of fucking narcissistic psychopaths. And I think that there's a truth to that. I think guys and gals like Sinema and Manchin, like, they're in this in part because this is the time they get to flex the big muscle. They get to be fucking, because otherwise, how fucking important was Joe Manchin, Cecil, before we got I never fucking heard of Joe Manchin in my fucking life.
Never heard. The only reason I knew Kristen Sinema was because she won like a runoff.
Yeah, Kristen Sinema was exciting for a hot minute because she used to be a Green Party candidate, and now she's become this crazy, like, center-right fucking Democrat. Like, she's awful. She's come, like, but she was actually she was openly bisexual or openly lesbian. I don't remember which. She was a Green Party candidate. Like, she was actually fairly progressive. But I think Kristen Sinema is very much in it for the attention. And I think Joe Manchin is very much in it for the fucking adoration. And, like, I think he wants to be the guy who's like, let me be the guy and run it past old Joe Manchin. Because these people were fucking nobody. If we had 52 seats, they'd be nobody.
Yeah. And if you had 52 seats that were all like that level of progressive, absolutely.
Yeah, because you got 48. Like that, we have two complete shitheads. We had the votes for the bigger. We had 48 out of 50 votes for the bigger bill. For the bill with all the fucking social safety net shit in it. They had 48 votes for it. We got this bill, which is good. But it's not great.
It's not what it was. It's not what it was, man.
So I'm totally there with you. But, like, this is, like, not a reason to be like, well, I guess nothing works. Like, you need more.
You're absolutely right.
We need more Democrats. You need a majority that's so large that you take Joe Manchin and say, go be a fucking Republican. We don't give a shit.
Yeah. But this also shows you that stuff can get done even with shitheads.
Yes.
Right? This is the other thing, too, is like this is not take your ball and go home. This is not vote third party. And look, I want to encourage people. This is something I wanted to talk about for a while. There's all these people who think you should be voting third party. I will tell you this. I would happily see a third, fourth, and fifth party in the United States. But you got to start it small and it's got to grow. You can't just expect a third party just to fucking pop into existence on a presidential run and garner enough votes to matter. It's got to grow from a grassroots state and city and local level and grow and grow and grow and grow across the country so that people are voting in state elections for different types of governors, for different types of state senators. And there's a multitude of them on multiple ballots across the country doing things in their states so people recognize that that's a viable option for the time when they finally make that jump into the president. You can't just will it because you want it to happen.
Right.
You got to make it happen. And you got to make it happen on a state level. I wholeheartedly encourage anyone who wants a third fucking or a fourth party or a fifth party, go out there and start making it happen. Because it can happen, but it can't just make itself into existence on a presidential, like 4 months before a presidential election, because you're literally just stealing votes from one side. And that's all you're doing.
And the way to start a viable third party is, I think structurally, you've got to do a couple of things. You've got to get third party credibility at the local level before you shoot up to the national level. That's exactly your point. And then I also think we have to push really fucking hard for some form of ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice.
As long as we have
choice.
anything other than ranked choice voting, the two big dogs in the room will outcompete any third dog.
Yep. Every single time.
It just numerically is never going to happen otherwise. So we've got to do that.
But you could change a lot on a state level, Tom. You could change a lot on it. Look at fucking ranked choice voting occurs in different places across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Ranked choice voting is the only way that we will ever see real progressive candidates forming a real progressive party. It's it. Like, I can't see. And the way to get there is to keep putting more Democrats in power. Because the most progressive big dog in the room, now, granted, they're not as progressive as you and I would like, but the most progressive big dog in the room, who are the only people that are going to win in these big national elections, are Democrats. Like, this is, like, you've got to play the game because the other side is playing the game. And that's why we don't have abortion in half this country.
But if you started to work on a third party system and you started to get more and more of those people in power and you convinced, because you're going to have to get that third party to be pretty powerful in your state before you're going to be able to do a ranked choice system. But Alaska and Maine in the presidential race have ranked choice voting. In the presidential race. Yeah. This is not, they decided on this and they can decide on this in a state. So if it can become, sure. Are you going to get it in some states? Probably not. But if you start getting in more and more and more and more states, there's a way better chance that the third party candidate can make it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So let's talk about what this bill does do, because it's pretty, parts of this are great.
Yeah, I think it's great. Some of it's great.
So $490 billion in what they call spending and tax cuts. This includes Affordable Care Act subsidies, Medicare prescription drug benefit, including a $35 cap on co-payments for insulin. Clean electricity, there are tax credits, a ton of really great tax credits that should spur a lot of clean energy, including wind, solar, geothermal, advanced nuclear, extending existing tax credits for wind and solar power, tax credit for existing nuclear reactors, prevent them from closing, extending the energy tax credit through 2024, clean energy rebates and grants for residential buildings. That's like at the ground level. That's stuff like, hey, if you want to put solar panels on your roof, there will be tax credits to do that.
And that is so great. It is such an awesome incentive for people. People will follow this and people will do this and people will word of mouth this stuff to you. I had one of the people at my work, they did this and they cannot stop talking about how fucking awesome the solar panels on their house are. They talk about it all the time. They talk about the money they got. They talk about, how you could easily do this they talk about it constantly, man. It's awesome word of mouth. And people wind up when they start saving that money, they never look back. They think it's awesome.
Yeah, I actually can't wait. When we move to our new house, we've talked about it. Like solar panels are like, I'm gonna hire a contractor or get in touch with a contractor as soon or even before we move in. Like because and that's the other thing is like this also includes tax credits and rebates to buy an electric car. So if you can get solar panels on your roof and you can get an electric car, you can drive for free with no impact, like virtually zero carbon impact.
It's so good, man. It's so
like
good.
How great is that?
Yeah.
There's manufacturing items in here for clean manufacturing incentives, for clean manufacturing technology here in the U.S. rather than getting that stuff abroad. Reducing emissions from energy-intensive industries such as concrete production, which produces an enormous amount of CO2 gas.
Sure.
Then there's green energy credits for individuals. We just talked about that. There's clean fuel and vehicle incentives. Air pollution is addressed. Conservation, rural development, transportation. There's other climate spending, which I think is great, including drought resilience, weather and climate resilience, zero emission USPS trucks. Like they drive around a fucking lot, man.
They do, man. That's awesome.
So there's a lot of really, I mean, to go through it all would take like half the show, but I want to bop down a little bit too to the savings in new revenue, which is $764 billion. We're talking about shit like a 15% corporate minimum tax. That's now part of our world, guys. IRS enforcement, protected net revenue raised from $80 billion in compliance and enforcement funding. We've talked about this on the show. The IRS is letting money go because they do not have the resources necessary to pursue tax frauds. And we're not talking about like little fucking Joe six-pack tax frauds.
Yeah.
There's no money there.
They're talking about big fraud.
Yep. Healthcare, repeal regulation on prescription drug rebates, drug price negotiation. Guys, this is huge.
This one blew me away, Tom. Drug price negotiation.
Yep.
Medicare negotiation on prices for certain drugs. I mean, like they're going to save that much money.
Well, that's actually part of why this is so powerful. So I read an article about why this is so powerful is that drug companies can't set a separate price. So,
that's great to hear.
Once Medicare, who's the biggest single bargaining power in the room, negotiates a price, it actually impacts everybody buying that drug.
Yeah, good.
So it's huge. And the idea, think for a second about the purposeful obstructionism to progress that was put into place intentionally to make this not the case. Because it's self-evidently powerful tool to keep drug prices down. The fact that we had to fight this hard to get it tells you how strong that lobby is and who's really working for who. Because this is self-evidently like useful. So it's like a weird thing that we even had to like celebrate this. There's methane reduction incentives. There's a reinstatement of Superfund, which ridiculous that got pulled out. This is a giant piece of legislation. This is over $1 trillion in spending and tax cuts and enforcement of bad actors. It's pretty fucking great, man. Like it's about fucking time. I know we did not get anywhere near, we didn't get half of what we should have gotten out of this.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. But man, I didn't think we were going to get anything.
Well, I'm happy that we got something. And like I said, it should motivate us all to recognize that we either really, really want more, so we want to start at the grassroots level and try to get more, or we're happy that we got something and we're going to move forward and keep moving forward.
Now, as you remember, when we ran out of time yesterday, we were about to make that final judgment on 9372.
I just got to read parts of this story. This story's crazy. This story comes from LGBTQ Nation. Christian camp director told to denounce his transgender son or lose his job.
Fucking
This is crazy. A Christian pastor was told that he and his wife had to denounce their transgender son, in order for him to keep his job as a Christian camp director. Instead, he and his family packed up their shit and moved to New Zealand. Chris Kimmon got his dream job as an assistant director and then as director of the non-denominational camp in Pac West that both he and his wife, Lindsay, had attended as children. Lindsay started working as a midwife in the nearby town. Their son, Jay, who was assigned female at birth, had yet to come out as transgender. He was a young evangelist trying to convert his friends at school. And then this story goes into telling the story of like this person realizing who they were, realizing that they were, in fact, a transgendered person and, going through that very difficult process. Then Jay came out as a lesbian as a teenager, and his parents asked him to keep it quiet. Their jobs depended on their images as good Christians. You know what this will do to your dad's job, Lindsay recalls saying. We just needed to keep this quiet. There's no reason to be talking about sex or sexuality. She later regretted forcing her child into the closet, putting the pressure on the family's financial well-being on a child and forcing him to be someone that he wasn't. When he was 17, someone started outing him as transgender, and he eventually came out to his parents. But by then, the community knew, and churches in the area, some of whose some of whose members had kids who attended the camp, were calling Chris in for hearings. They got their hackles up. We're saying, you can't be gay or trans and be a Christian, they said. If you're going to have gay people at your camp, we have to pull out. The whole point, one of the greatest things about being gay is you don't have to pull out.
Man, I can't believe that they do this. I really genuinely can't believe that they would like.
So awful.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Like literally Christianity is just a method to control you. But man, how many people throughout history have had their entire world turned upside down by some sort of church leader, but then sucked it up? Like, just leave, just go, just do something else. This guy got a job as this, but then eventually left. He eventually just said, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. This is literally his job. He's way more invested in it than just some random person who goes to that church.
Yeah, man.
And he was able to walk away from it. Man, when these people try to throw your life upside down, these people just need to say, fuck that, and bounce.
You know, I can't imagine in the non-religious world a job. Think about any job you've had. If they had any job you've ever had, if they said that you had to denounce someone that you loved,
no,
you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. I'd denounce this fucking place. You take a shit right on the hood of the boss's car on your way out the door. It's only because it's a church, right? So they're not just losing a job. They're losing their entire community, their friends, their family, like who they are. And what a horrible fucking sword of Damocles to hold over someone's head.
Right.
For nothing. To like, cause that's really the danger is like, yeah, all right, you know, you can have your son or you can have every other piece of your life. And obviously you have to pick your son, but it sucks that anybody has to make that choice. And they fucking know what they're doing. It's not just a job, you know?
It's your whole life.
Yeah. It's stripping someone of who they are.
It's the entirety, because it's the community around you. It's where you live very often is very motivated by who's in those churches. You know what I mean? Like those churches are local. You're in those churches. You're part of the community. You're part of the fucking barbecue and the rummage sales and all the stuff that happens. And they do have an amazing power over people. And it's so heartbreaking to watch them have to do this Sophie's Choice all the time. And it's just heartbreaking. I'm always saddened by this, but the one thing that I think people can feel good about is that I think for the most part, and I'm probably wrong here. Now I'm going to say it. I'm probably going to be wrong. The secular community seems pretty welcoming of the gay community and the trans community.
Yeah, I think by and large, absolutely.
By and large, it seems. Obviously, there's fucking fuck sticks everywhere. Yes. And, you know, you can't, since we're not technically a community that can like kick people out, anybody can say they're secular, you know what I mean? It doesn't stop them from being part of the community. You can just not ever have them at any of your events, which is what happens with any of these super duper bigot people. But, you know, for the most part, it's at least a welcoming community for most LGBT people. So, you know, there is a place for them. It's just that it sucks that not every place is for them. You know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous. They're thrown away in large sections of society. They're just thrown away as non-people, and it's awful.
For nothing that affects anyone that's not you.
For existing.
You know, like that's
for being who they are.
Right. It literally has no impact on anyone that isn't them. You know, like no one's like making you have sex with gay dudes. Like no one's like making you there's no impact. That's the other thing that like is the most none of your business fucking thing. Yeah, it is so none of your fucking business.
So unless there's been a change in circumstance that warrants filing the motion out of time, say if the county up and moved overnight.
This story comes from NBC News. Florida court says teen is not mature enough to have an abortion. The 16-year-old may now be forced to have a baby, even though she is parentless, and has told the court that she's not ready. This is as bad as it sounds. This really is.
What's easier? Having a baby you got to take care of forever or having an abortion? Like, which one requires more? I don't understand your logic,
seriously, man. Like, you're not mature enough, so you have to be a parent? Hey, you're so immature, you have to be a parent?
What? What now?
You just want to be like, dude, out loud? Like can you hear you say the things?
This is a 10-week pregnancy, man. This is a nothing.
Yep.
This is a fucking tiny little fucking snot. It's a bean. It's nothing. It's a pomegranate seed, whatever you want to call it. It's literally a nothing. This is what fucking one of those jackasses, that one guy, that Crowder guy, when the guy said, "Are you saying this is a human?"
Yes.
And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "That's a dolphin," or whatever. It's the same thing, man. It's a fucking dolphin embryo. Or whatever. You would not be able to, if you put it in a lineup, people would not be able to pick it out of a lineup. You know, I saw this thing today, Tom, and it's these people posted, I guess Rogan had one of these anti-abortion guys on, the guy who runs the Babylon Bee. I don't know the guy's name. He's some jackass who runs the Babylon Bee. And it's a dude who's trying to tell women how they need to fucking shut the fuck up and not get abortions. It's basically two dudes just arguing over how women should have abortions. I guess Joe pushed back a couple times saying his 14-year-old daughter shouldn't have to, have a child that's conceived of a rape. And the guy's response was basically like, well, when is that magic moment that it's a person? And I'm like, well, it's not at fucking conception, man. I would be the first to argue it's the same with Terry Schiavo, that it is with a baby. Show me fucking brain activity, and then we can start having some sort of conversation. The problem is by the time it gets to that point, no person wants to get an abortion. They all have to get an abortion to save their life, or because the fucking thing is headless or whatever. Yep. It's never like they want to get an abortion when it's that late. It's only early on. They're like other methods have failed, and like, oh no, fucking I gotta get an abortion. And then they're like, no, well, what if it's like a real actualized college student in there? Like, get the fuck out of here. Man, shut the fuck up, know your role, get back in your lane and shut your mouth. You're fucking talking about nothing. You're talking about a literal nothing. And what you're saying is that potentiality has more rights than a real woman. A woman who's alive and an adult right now.
Yeah, it's so funny because like I've heard that like, oh, well, when's the magic moment? It's like, oh, we can answer that. We actually can answer that question, and it's at about 7 months. At about 7 months, there begins to be detectable brainwave activity, and that is the line that we use for all other bodies that are in existence to decide whether or not something is alive or not. If I go outside and I get hit by a fucking car and I have no brainwave activity, they can cut my body open while the heart's still doing heart stuff in order to take the heart out. Yeah. And it ain't fucking murder because my ass is dead if I don't have brainwave activity. We already have established a standard for when life ends. And you just have to look at that lens backward to figure out when it begins. That's it. Like, it's not more it doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
The problem, though, is that they've been told this fucking fantastic lie that there's all like this slew of people out in the world that are like, it's 8 months. Fuck this. I'm out. Tap it out. Take the baby out. You're like, there's nobody in the world that is like this. These are people who have had they've had a baby shower. They've named the baby. They've fucking painted a room. They have fucking all these things that they've done in preparation of baby at that point. And if they have to have an abortion, fuck you for fucking climbing up their ass about it.
Yeah, man. That is exactly right. The people who have to have late-term abortions, like this is an infinitesimal percentage of the people, and there is never viability. It is not mom is doing great and the fucking baby is doing great, and we just have decided fucking mulligan at month 8.
Whatever.
That's not happening. That's a story that people tell because it sounds like something that they want to be opposed to, and it's like, all right, great. Be opposed to that, I guess. Like, one, if it's none of your fucking business, maybe make it none of your fucking business. But if you want to be opposed to it, be opposed to it. But you're then not opposed to 99.9% of the rest of the fucking abortions. So leave those the fuck alone, you monsters. Not mature enough, so she has to carry a fucking baby.
I don't get this.
Does not make any sense.
I just literally don't get it. I literally don't get it.
So this one dovetails. This is from Vice. Woman may be forced to give birth to a headless baby because of an abortion ban. This one comes out of Louisiana. And in Louisiana, there is a list of medical conditions. And if the fetus has any of these medical conditions, then, or if the mother is super sick or whatever, then an abortion may be allowable by Louisiana law. But otherwise, abortion's pretty much impossible to get in Louisiana.
Sure.
Well, this fucking medical condition is fucking really rare that this goddamn fetus has, so it's not listed on the list. And also a list like that is fucking problematic for about 100 fucking reasons. But like, the condition means this baby has something called acrania, meaning no fucking cranium.
Man.
No head. This woman is going to have to gestate and create a baby and then go into labor with all the dangers and pain and trauma in order to give birth to a fucking headless baby because of this monstrous shit.
Dude, if that it doesn't tell you that this law was specifically put in place to punish people with vaginas, I don't know what is. I don't know what you look at to not see this as an absolute punishment against people with uteruses, period. You can't look at this as some sort of correct stance on how we, because we wouldn't, dude, if you let's say you had a kid and your kid was driving down the road and they fucking fell in the road and a fucking car clipped their noggin off.
Right.
You wouldn't take that kid to the hospital and be like, nope, sorry, we got to keep that headless body on life support indefinitely forever because it's your kid and that's what has to happen. You wouldn't do that.
Nope.
You wouldn't do this with a fucking, with somebody who was brain dead. You wouldn't do this in a million other instances. They don't do this. They triage people that are already alive all the time, but we can't triage a fetus. We can't look at it. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, so please don't send me a message and be like, you're absolutely correct. In any case, you're not looking at, we're not trying to make, you're not allowed to make some sort of judgment about whether or not this is a viable, like, if it's not viable, that should just be like, yeah, man, it's fucking gonna die. Yep. Sorry, let's not just create something so it can fucking experience ultimate pain before it dies. Can we just not do that? Can we stop it before the mom has to, like you say, go through all this dangerous shit up to that point? Can we just be like, yeah, you know what? It's actually a super easy procedure early on, and we know early on. Moving on, the end. I know. The person can, because there could be so many complications. Just because, why? Like, literally, why? And it's because you want to keep that person out of the workforce or punish them somehow. Yep. That's it.
That's it. This is obviously, like, the state can never make a list. How fucking Big Brother-esque is this?
Right.
That this decision is not between this woman and her doctor.
Yep.
This state of fucking Louisiana is going to make a list of when it is acceptable for you to get medical care and when it's unacceptable for you to get medical care. The state of fucking Louisiana, some fucking, you know where that comes from? From fucking lawmakers, not doctors.
Yeah.
Like, of course they're going to forget this fucking disease or that because they're going to turn to their, did we get them all? Is that all the ones? I mean, are they going to debate about like, well, that one, maybe there's like a 3% chance. Get the fuck out of here. You know what this is? Yeah. This is a fucking death panel.
Yeah.
Like, this is not any different than a fucking death panel.
Yeah. This is what they were saying they were afraid of.
Right.
And there's a doctor on here that said, I looked at this list for 30 seconds and found like 2 of them that are missing already. Yeah. How can this be possibly even be the list?
Even if you were a horrible fucking person and the only thing that you were going to carve out, and again, you'd be horrible to do this, carve out is like non-viability. Yeah. Then the non-viability standard should just be like, does this woman's doctor think this is non-viable? Yeah.
Right.
Is he willing to like sign this affidavit? Yep. Great. Sold. That's it. But when the state of Louisiana has to like specifically get involved, this is the kind of shit that happens. Some poor fucking human being has to go through the trauma of this experience, and there is nothing that anyone gains from this. Like, there's no social benefit from this at all. The only benefit is, like you said, Cecil, the benefit of this is to keep women in the fucking kitchen, pregnant and less than. That's it.
Yep.
That is the fucking out loud and everything goal.
You will take our knowledge by osmosis, out of time.
So this story comes from Only Sky. This is great. This is like, haha, a Texas school district just banned the Bible. Oops. So in the school district in Texas, they have a rule that says if parents object to a book, it gets pulled. So any parental objection to any book will cause that book to get pulled pending review. So parents just like, all right, cool. I'm going to object to your shit. I'm going to object to the Bible. And so they have to pull it. Like, that's their rule. That problem with these fucking monolithic rules is you guys like a lot of terrible shit. The Bible's full of like rape and incest and fucking bestiality and fucking weird shit.
It's great. What I love too, Tom, is that like somebody posted, one of these Republicans posted and said, it's starting already. And they posted this story as a proof that they're pulling the Bible off the shelf. And someone like quote tweeted it and said, but you did this. Like you did this. I don't understand. Like you were the one who wanted this. Like you were the one who did all this. Like nobody on the left was like, let's ban books. It's literally only ever been the Republicans who want to ban books or stop people from reading books, stop other people from reading books to other people. That's literally all they ever want to do. Like, I mean, God, look at yourself in the mirror for 10 seconds. You are the baddies, man. You're the bad ones. You're the bad people. Holy shit.
This is what I hope more than anything is like if I were, I mean, truly, if I was in a school district like this, I would walk in that with a pen and paper. I'd write down every single book in the library and have them all pulled. Like, let's be as absurd as possible. Great. You know what? Let's make this as difficult and onerous.
Yeah.
And like, I'll have your Bible pulled. I'm going to have every single book in the entire library pulled, and I'll do it every year that this thing is on. Like, we'll just make this as, I will spend all of your time and all of your energy and all of your money going through this process. Because I've got nothing, like, why not? Why not? I think of my dad when I think of these things. Like, I remember, like, my dad is 74 and he's retired. And like, he's bored and sometimes a little ornery. And like, occasionally he'll tell me a story where like, he'll like call Comcast and Comcast will, give him the runaround. And my dad will be like, look, I don't know what you have to do today, but this is all I have to do today. I will spend all day on this with you. Like, if I was like someone like that, if I was like a little older, retired, be like, this will be my hobby. My hobby will be using your stupid fucking law to fuck with you.
Yeah, this is just malicious compliance. That's all it is. Yeah.
What's happening? You got the latest man, Leon Phelps here. And I am looking at a half-empty bottle of Cavassier, which means that we are just about out of time.
This story comes from God.daily. Kayleigh McEnany's sister to launch conservative dating app, The Right Stuff. Which first, ew. God. Like...
Yeah, right?
Ew. Like, if that doesn't conjure up.
Gross. Where are you gonna get the stuff? You're gonna put the stuff.
It's so fucking
butt stuff.
The right stuff.
It is not butts. It is
They're
not
doing
stuff.
any fun stuff. They're not doing it.
Definitely not.
This is lights off, missionary. Yeah. She doesn't come. That's what it is. Like, that's what this is.
This is 1, 2. Okay, we're done.
All right.
We're done here.
That's a smack on the ass and you can go get me a sandwich.
Yeah. Let's go do something else now. Yeah.
This is just.
Let's go on a Trump boat or whatever. No, but like these people started a sort of conservative dating app because they were going out on dates and finding people like liked other humans and had empathy, and they were like, fuck that, where's another robot I could fuck? And so then they searched for it. And the best part about this was they were saying, like, oh, you go out on these dates with these leftists and it's all these bad dates. And Dan Savage's tweet is, you weren't enduring bad dates, you right-wing shitbags, you were the bad dates. Like, it's so true, man.
Imagine being so terrible that like when you try to engage the world romantically, it's like, man, nobody's interested in me. That's because your values are terrible.
Right.
Like, your values are terrible. And McEnany basically says it, and Dan Savage's response is fucking brilliant, right? But she says, we're sorry you've had to endure years of bad dates and wasted time with people who don't see the world our way, the right way. And it's like, look, what you've done is you've created like, you're creating this because you recognize that your way of thinking makes you less marketable. That's the truth that you are inherently recognizing is like, you're just an unpalatable, gross person and people don't want to fuck you. So you have to actually get in a smaller boat, right? You've got to get in a smaller fucking space because the rest of the world's like, ew, when they fucking look at you. That's it. It's so great. And this is like the fourth social right-leaning dating website, and they've all failed.
Well, this one has an interesting take. They're going to do basically ladies' night.
Yeah.
They're going to allow ladies automatically get deluxe. They automatically get the like double plus extra special concierge treatment, and men have to pay for it. So if you're a dude, because they know dudes are going to flock to this anyway,
right?
Especially like conservative Christian guys, they're going to flock to this in a second. If they're not already on Grindr, they're going to come to this one for sure.
They will already be on Grindr and still go to that one.
But in any case, they're going to flock to this. And so she knows they're going to pay for it. This is another grift is what this is.
It's 100%
This is not I don't think that this is a thing that she's not like out there thinking, you know what I really want to do? I want to get people connected. No, she wants to fucking connect her fucking this app to her fucking bank account is what she wants to connect. You kidding me?
Yeah, man. You're not at all wrong. This is like, and it's also funny that they're using the sort of ladies' night model, right? Because other apps don't have to use that because they're just attractive to use.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're recognizing like, all right, it's just going to be a fucking sausage party of fucking right-wing dingbats.
A bunch of dudes.
Right.
Duding it up.
Just a bunch.
Swiping right on dudes.
It's just going to be a bunch of fucking truck nut dudes like trolling the same 6 girls.
There's an army of bodies under this river. Criminals. People ran out of time. Out of friends.
This story comes from Business Insider. If Trump is convicted for violating the Espionage Act and 2 other federal laws, he could face up to 33 years in prison, legal experts say. So this is related to the seizure by the FBI in a raid of Mar-a-Lago, the seizure of top secret documents that Trump stole because he had no right to take them from the White House. And that today, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, but I saw just like not that long ago.
Affidavit.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. So the federal judge ordered basically the government on Thursday to propose redactions to the affidavit. So that happened today. They were there. It looks like it's going to come out, but it's going to have redactions in it.
Okay.
And so
I did see that one of his lawyers today came out and said, well, yeah, he had the documents, but they were kept very securely in a room with a lock on it, and only a few people had the key. And it's like, no, man, some of these documents were top secret documents. A fucking they were in a room full of boxes with a fucking, you can see a picture of it, with just like a Joe hardware store padlock on the door, in a room, Cecil, adjacent to the pool at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, man. And
like China doesn't have bolt cutters.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's in these secret documents, and nobody else does either, right? Like, we don't know exactly what's in. We shouldn't, because they're secret documents. So we don't know what's in them. There's been a lot of speculation over the last couple of weeks over what could be in there, how fucked he could be. This could be, nuclear codes or something. People have been talking about nuclear secrets, location of weapons. They've been talking about all kinds of other things. We just don't know what's in there. I have not seen any credible news source out there say this is sort of exactly the material that's in there. There's nobody who's willing to say that because we just don't know. We know the classifications of things, but that's as far as it goes. So we don't know exactly. But we do know that he took a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't have had, and he had it for a very long time. And, there's nothing that says that some of these, that he couldn't have had some of this stuff that might have been an enticement for other governments to even want to have. You don't know that. You can't be sure of that. What we do know is that they came and they got this stuff, and it was a big enough deal to walk into Mar-a-Lago, and they had to get tipped off exactly to where it was. So this is like a big deal that they showed up. I still am not sure anything's really going to happen from this. But I am happy that this is sort of still percolating in the news, because so far, every single time he's tried to push and say, well, why don't you do this? And they're like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm kind of anxious to see this redacted affidavit, because I want to see what he has to say. Like, what do you have to say after it's been, because I have no confidence whatsoever this is going to be egg on the face of the FBI. There's no way that Merrick Garland, who has been extraordinarily careful in everything he's done, is going to do something so fucking sloppy as to make it look like they're just fucking a bunch of amateurs. I guarantee that's not the case. I guarantee it.
Totally agree. I totally agree. Also, like, you've got to wonder, because like, he took a bunch of shit and they took a bunch of shit back. And he signed off. They signed off saying, that's all the shit we took. And they kept this shit, and they knew they kept this shit because they kept this shit locked away. So like, why did he want it?
You're right.
What was he
why
saving
did you
it for?
Keep it? Yeah.
Like, you don't get to have this shit. And I will never, ever, ever listen to another fucking butthurt emails person again in my life. Not that I ever did in the beginning.
Not again.
But like,
fuck you.
This is top secret shit is top secret shit. And they keep trying to play this like 5 different ways, right? They keep trying to say like crazy, stupid shit like, oh, well, he could have declassified it. And then I saw something like, oh, he has a standing order to declassify anything that he had. Yeah. That's not how it works.
Everybody said that's bullshit. Everybody said it's bullshit anyway.
That's not how any of this works.
There's been like 12 people have already come out and said, no, that's not true. Yeah. That's literally not true. That's not what he said when he was in office. That's not, and it's also not how you can't even do that.
Yeah, that's not different than like Michael Scott just being like, I declare bankruptcy.
Yeah. This is pulling fucking something out of the hat until it's not a practice, Tom. That's essentially what it is. It's just bullshit. It's a lie. He's a liar. He's been a liar since the beginning. You can never trust anything he says or anybody who works for him says. He's been nothing but a liar, and he's an absolute, literal thief, man. Yep. He's a literal thief of government documents. He is an absolute thief. If you think anything of this guy, I can't imagine you thinking this is okay. Is, because I'll tell you what, make it Obama.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Make it Obama.
That's all you have to say.
Flip the fucking script and make it Obama. And tell me how fucking happy you'd be if they busted into Obama's place and they said, hey, man, you kept a bunch of secret fucking documents.
Yeah, man, you kept shit that's top secret classified shit. You can't have this shit. Some of the shit that they're talking about. Now, again, we don't know exactly what they've taken. We don't know. But like, there are levels of top secret where it's not just that like I can't read it. It's that I can only read it in a room that is purpose built for reading top secret documents.
And then there's stuff that's like, it's only printed. It's not anywhere else.
Right. So, and again, you've got to wonder why he lied about it, why he wanted to take it in the first place. What was he going to fucking do with it? Like, none of this. There's no non-evil explanation for this. You can't even chalk this up to incompetence. You can't because they already signed off months ago saying, all right, that's all that we've got, when they expressly knew they had this.
There's no way he's that big a fucking idiot that thinks that this is not a big deal. No. I think you're absolutely right. There are literally, I can't think of any positive thing. You're right. It's only malicious things that he could have this for.
Right. I think, that's it. I'm just speculating and I don't believe this is true. I simply wonder if this is true. So I want to make that distinction to not get a fucking email about it. But like, I do have to wonder, like, was he trying to sell this shit to like Russia or China? Or
Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Like what was he trying to do with this? It's not nothing. The answer is not nothing. This was not souvenir shit. You don't take this shit. You don't sign off. You don't lie. You don't lock it up. If it's a souvenir, man. They came back and took all his souvenirs. And he's like, oopsie, my bad on the souvenirs.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is totally different. You're right. This is not anything. And I want to mention too, like the article mentions that these things have like colorations on them that are of dangerous flowers that you shouldn't go near. You know what I mean? Like they're like poisonous snake colored envelopes that you just know for sure you should not pick up. They have like red or orange or yellow or bright green or whatever. And these are not things you mistake for something else. They are specifically purpose made so that doesn't happen.
Yep.
So that's to thank our patrons. Of course, I'd like to thank all our patrons. I'd like to thank our newest patrons, Mr. Bitey the Honey Badger, John and Charles. Thank you so much for your generous donations. We pay 2 salaries, overpay 2 salaries. Sorry, I misspoke. To 2 very, sometimes very dedicated people. So we want to thank you guys for doing that. Without that support, this would be impossible. So we definitely want to thank you. This upcoming weekend, Tom and I are going to be recording the next installment of our Rise of the Warrior Cop series. I think we're going to be finishing the book. The people that are patrons will be getting that second version of that, or the second piece of that. It's going to drop sometime this week for them. So we want to, if you're interested in listening to our analysis of Rise of the Warrior Cop by Radley Belko, we already did part 1 last month and become a patron. We're doing part 2 this month for patrons. So our analysis and our discussion about the topics in that book, we had a really interesting discussion the first half of that book. We're going to finish that book out this weekend, and then we're going to move on to the next book. So if you're a patron and you want to get in on that action and talk about what we should do next, we're going to be sort of quizzing the patrons very soon to figure that out. This is all for people who help fund the show. So if you want to be part of that, you can become a patron on a per episode basis. All you have to do is go to dissonancepod.com, or you can go to patreon.com/dissonancepod, and you can join in on the fun. We are going to skip email this week. Tom and I, we wound up skipping a day. We mentioned that earlier. And so we're running a little late tonight. So we want to jump out and finish tonight. So we're going to skip the email. We'll get to it next week, we promise. This upcoming week, Monday through Friday, I'll be streaming on Twitch. The Twitch schedule is up, so you can go find it on Twitch. You can see where it's at. It tells you what day. I'll be streaming Path of Exile. I did it tonight, and I'll be doing it all next week. So come check it out if you want to come hang out. I wear a crown of thorns, and if you want to talk to me like I'm Jesus, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm having a good time, and people seem to enjoy it. So if you're interested in Twitch streaming, game streaming, you can come hang out with me. Tom and I should be back next week. We missed our Thursday live stream, but we will be back this upcoming week for a Thursday live stream. So come hang out with us on Thursday night. That's at Twitch as well as YouTube and Facebook. Every Thursday we try to go live. This last week we just couldn't. It was late notice. To some people, we're sorry that it was late notice. We tried to get the word out as soon as we heard, but we try to go live every Thursday. So come join us 9 p.m. Central. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this week. We're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death in towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.